Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Representative for Hawaii's 2nd Congressional District and Hawaii Army National Guard veteran, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard.
Aloha. It's an honor to be here this evening and to hear the stories of our fellow veterans. I come from the state of Hawaii, and I have the privilege of serving Hawaii's 2nd Congressional District. This is my 3rd term in Congress, and I serve in the Foreign Affairs and the Armed Services Committee. Back in 2004, I was serving as a state representative in Hawaii's legislature, and I was campaigning for re-election, going house to house, knocking on doors, as we do. I'd stopped at home to take a break and grab a bite to eat and checked my email and saw a deployment announcement for the 29th Brigade Combat Team out of the Hawaii Army National Guard. At that time, I was serving in a headquarters medical unit, and I looked at this email, understanding that this was the first major deployment for this brigade since Vietnam. As I looked down the deployment roster and people were being notified that your heads up, 18 months long deployment, training, year-long mobilization, and demob, I saw a lot of people who I knew on there, a lot of people who I didn't know, close to 3,000 soldiers from our National Guard Brigade. And I saw that my name was not on the list. And I called my commander and I said, I didn't see my name on the list. And he said, yeah, don't worry about it. You don't get to go. You get to stay home and watch out for the home front. Someone else has already filled the job that I was trained for. And I thought about what he was telling me, and I knew in my heart that there was no way that I could stay back home in beautiful Hawaii in a cushy job, going surfing, as my friends, brothers and sisters in uniform, deployed off to the other side of the world, many of them for the first time in combat, not knowing how many of them would ever make it home. I knew that I had to go with them. So I badgered my commander and I told him, you don't understand. I'm going with you guys. He said, no, you don't have to go. I said, no, I'm going. So there was a different job and a different slot on the deployment roster. I got trained for that job and deployed with this unit. We ended up in Iraq in January of 2005 in a camp about 40 miles north of Baghdad. Within the first couple of days that we were there in this camp, that was within the Sunni Triangle, it was a time where there were, unfortunately, a lot of casualties. I was figuring out where things were, orienting myself, and I saw at one of the major gates to this camp a huge sign that read in big black letters, "Is today the day?" And I kind of stood there and looked at it for a minute, reflecting on what this meant. And it would continue to serve as a reminder, not just for me, but for all of us who were there, who would go in and out of this gate, who would see it as we went about our business every day, that any day could be the day. About the fragility of life, about the temporary nature of these bodies, and how our time could come at any moment. We had a chaplain there who was from American Samoa, and he would often preach in his sermons, just have faith. If it's your time, it's your time. If it's not your time, it's not your time. But this reminder was there every day about the cost of war, about how little time we actually have in our lives. One of my jobs every day working in medical operations for our brigade was to go through a list of each of the casualties that had occurred, the injuries and casualties that had occurred the day before in the entire country. And I had to go through this list name by name, looking to see if there were any soldiers from our brigade who had been injured. And if there were, then to make sure that they were getting the care they needed, either to stay in country and return to duty, or to get them evacuated as quickly as possible to Germany or to somewhere else, and finally follow them until they made it back home into the arms of their loved ones. These names stuck with me because I understood and knew, as I saw some of my friends who popped up on this list, many people who I didn't know and have never met. These are the people paying the price for war. Understanding that behind every one of these names is a loved one, family members, children, spouses, parents, siblings at home. Dreading that phone call. Understanding that the cost of war didn't end with that single deployment, but is something that would be carried by our service members for most of, not all of their life. This made such an impact on me, and while I was there, I wondered how many people, how many elected leaders, how many people here in Washington thought about these men and women. How many of them were kept up at night, understanding who was paying the price for the consequences of the decisions that are made here. This is something that impacted me deeply and made me want to come home from both of my deployments to the Middle East, wanting to do something about this. Understanding at that time there were fewer veterans serving in Congress than ever before in our nation's history. And the impact that that had and has on the decisions that are being made here. Is today the day? It was not only a message for us there, but it's a message for each of us in every day of our lives to make that choice about how we are spending what precious little time we have. How every one of us can make that choice to take action, to be of service, to have a positive impact on those around us, no matter what our job may be, no matter what we may do in our lives, that we can choose to set aside our differences, choose to be a part of the solution, choose to love and respect one another, and to treat each other with kindness. Because every day is the day. I'm Tulsi Gabbard. I'm a proud veteran and soldier in the Hawaii Army National Guard. Aloha.